President Trump has signed an executive order. If you're tired of seeing people burn the American flag, that's fixing to come to a screeching halt, as he plans to give anyone protesting burning American flags 1 year in jail. President Trump signed an executive order today, August 25th, 2025, that instructs federal prosecutors to prioritize the enforcement of existing laws against flag desecration. This includes a charge for possibly inciting a riot. I'm sure they're going to try to fight this every step of the way. They'll probably be filing lawsuits any minute. There are folks that want to live here. They want the benefits of being a U.S. citizen, but they don't want to behave like a U.S. citizen. My father truly brought me and my sister up right, to love this country with all of our hearts, to respect our military at all times. I truly wish we could get back to those days. You all let me know your thoughts respectfully, please, in the comments. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Monday. God bless you.
Trump is hinting that he will sign an executive order which requires voter ID for all 50 states. Now, despite Gallup polls showing that even 67% of Democrats think this is a good idea, guess who is complaining? The Democrats. I wonder why. When you look at what states require ID to vote and what states Trump won, wow, the only states that he lost are the ones that don't require voter ID. I wonder why. It blows my mind that these people, oh, you don't need an ID to vote. The most important thing in all of the United States, it only happens every 4 years. Any Joe Schmo, I'm going to show up. Oh yeah, I live down the block. I registered to vote with a bill in my name. It's not even my real name. Can I show up to vote? And yes, illegal immigrants, not all of them, they do vote. You want to know why? Because Texas kicked off thousands off of their voter rolls, along with other states. So yeah, just because you don't agree with it, just because it affects the Democrats and it hurts their bottom line, you should have an ID to vote. It's common sense. You have no idea who's showing up.
So I just wanted to come and talk to you real quick as a veteran and as a patriot. Today, your First Amendment has been infringed upon by Donald J. Trump. Look, the big orange man signing in to law that you can no longer burn an American flag in protest goes directly against the Supreme Court ruling of First Amendment free speech and the ability to burn an American flag as protest. No president can create a law. That's not how it works. You can't just sign an executive order and create a law as a president. Congress has to create laws. They have a system. It's called checks and balances. Look, that's why we have 3 branches of government to have checks and balances: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. If you go past these branches and these checks and balances and just allow a president to write an executive order and create whatever thing he wants into a law, that's called fascism. We are no longer a democracy. We are no longer represented by the people that we voted for. We are represented by a fascist dictator wannabe who has small hands and a big ego.
Starting in Washington, where the president had a whole lot to say on Monday. He promised to solve Chicago's crime problem in a week, vowed to bring drug prices down 1,000%, plans to sue California, wants to make the Department of Defense the Department of War again, which it was previously in the 1940s. Like I said, the president really ran the gamut of conversation starters. He also signed new executive orders. The big one is an attempt to end cashless bail. Cashless bail is pretty straightforward as a concept. It's exactly what it sounds like. A suspect doesn't need to fork over any cash to secure their release from custody before a trial. President Trump believes the policy is a disaster and that it's a recipe for more violence.
Somebody, they go in, don't worry about it, no cash, come back in a couple of months, we'll give you a trial. You never see the person again. And I mean, they kill people and they get out. Cashless bail. They thought it was discriminatory to make people put up money because they just killed 3 people lying on a street. Any street all over the country, cashless bail. We're ending it.
We need to unpack that a little bit. In general, cashless bail isn't used for violent felonies like murder. Most of the time, bail of any kind in that case just isn't on the table. That said, in New York, for example, judges are allowed to consider a suspect's financial situation when deciding to require cash to secure their release. And it has led to a few horrible outcomes. 2 men collared for dealing drugs in Greenwich Village were released without bond earlier this month. They were also convicted killers. And last October, a suspected gang member was released without bail after being arrested and charged with attempted murder. He was later handcuffed in a Miami drug bust, only to get out again. Now, the White House also put a spotlight on a study done on recidivism rates in one California county, Yolo. The research found that upwards of 70% of people released on zero bail in Yolo reoffended. Now, the other major executive order that I need to mention is on flag burning.
Flag burning. All over the country, they're burning flags. All over the world, they burn the American flag. And as you know, through a very sad court, I guess it was a 5-4 decision, they called it freedom of speech.
Now, that Supreme Court ruling that the president mentioned there is from 1989, when a liberal majority held that flag burning is protected speech. Now the president says that burning a flag will earn the offender a 1-year stint in jail. It remains unclear how he's going to enforce that, or if this is a vehicle to challenge that Supreme Court ruling that he obviously doesn't like.
Holy shit, Donald Trump is signing an executive order today that's going to allow crypto to be allocated to 401ks. We're not bullish enough on crypto. His view of the Burj Khalifa is beautiful. It's crazy that Tom Cruise sat at the top.
He tried to buy out the entire workforce of the CIA. His DOJ is going after anyone who's investigated him. And now he has defeated America's biggest threat.
At the White House today, President Trump signing an executive order banning transgender women and girls from competing in women's sports.
With this executive order, the war on women's sports is over. We're putting every school receiving taxpayer dollars on notice that if you let men take over women's sports teams or invade your locker rooms, you will be investigated for violations of Title IX and risk your federal funding.
You notice how he paused right before invade your locker rooms? Like, maybe we won't make that illegal. Should have proofread this. Look, it's bad enough that he's banned trans women from sports, but spare us the performance of pretending that this is a top issue for women in this country.
Did y'all see Trump sign an executive order allowing teachers to physically discipline your kids within the classroom? How y'all feel about that? Because I wish my son's teacher would put their hands on him. I wish they would.
President Donald Trump signs an executive order talking about flag burning, and you'll get a year in prison. I really wish you would also focus on a lot of these MAGA supporters, these far-right extremists as well that put all these symbols and skulls and his name across the American flag. Because to me, that's just as disrespectful. What are your opinion on that? He needed to sign an executive order about that too. I didn't know the flag was meant to shine for President Donald Trump or to put skulls on it and flags over the top of the flag. Doesn't look right, does it? But it's okay and justified when MAGA does it. Make it make sense. Bye.
So if you burn an American flag now, you're going to jail for a year. If you didn't know, President Trump signed an executive order, I think this morning, basically saying that that's what's going to happen if you burn an American flag, and it's no longer protected under the First Amendment. I'm a retired Marine. I like the move. I think it's BS that it was ever protected under the First Amendment. I mean, what kind of people are out there burning the American flag? From where I stand, has only been used to piss everybody off that really loves what it stands for, right? Especially for us veterans, we've lost people. Amputees didn't come back whole, whether it was mentally, physically, emotionally.
What does the American flag stand for, Barry? It stands for liberty and the freedom of expression. The bedrock principle of the First Amendment is to protect offensive speech. You don't protect non-offensive speech, right? The fucking grass is green. That does not need protected. But offensive speech, speech that fucking offends people, that needs protected. And that is why the First Amendment exists. Now, I get burning the American flag offends you. It offends me. I fucking hate it. And that is why it needs to stay protected. It is a catch-22. If you outlaw symbolic expression and the burning of the American flag, then that flag no longer represents liberty and freedom of expression. There's a deeper issue, though, Barry. Is you're okay with the executive branch outlawing something? What is it called when one man who is the chief enforcer of law now has the power to not only interpret law, but pass law? What is that called, Barry? I'll give you a hint. It is the fucking antithesis to what that flag symbolizes. And if that flag no longer represents liberty and freedom of expression, and one man has the power to make law, interpret law, and enforce law, then what was the fucking point? Nobody come after Barry in my comments, please. I have a lot of respect for him. He has honorably served this nation for decades. And that is more than a lot of people can fucking say. I just think he needs to reevaluate what America stands for.